Hey crystal lover, Ashley here with the Love and Light School of Crystal Therapy, and in this video I'm going to be sharing a little bit about how to identify your orange and peach stones. So in the first video in this series we talked a little bit about your red and pink crystals and how to identify those and tell them apart from one another. In this video I'm going to be focusing on orange and peach stones. So if you remember in the last video we talked a little bit how difficult it can be to tell apart your stones, especially when they're tumbled. And once you narrow it down by color, how to then take that to the next level and take it one more step further and actually tell which kind of crystal you have. So I'm just going to focus on a few of the most common orange and peach crystals in this video and give you a few pointers on how to tell them apart. So let's start with probably the most widely known and readily accessible commercially available stone, which is carnelian. So carnelian can really range in its appearance. Sometimes it's banded and sometimes it's one solid color. Sometimes it's even a little bit swirled or mottled. Now, when it's banded, it's sometimes referred to as Carnelian agate. And normally this is a deep, vibrant orange with clear chalcedony bands. Now, carnelian is actually a cryptocrystalline form of quartz, which is, of course, as we learned in video 1, chalcedony. And so when you see it in this banded form, it is referred to as carnelian agate because banded forms of chalcedony are, of course, agates. But you don't always see it listed this way. Sometimes you'll just still see it called carnelian. And carnelian has this beautiful vibrant orange, but sometimes, depending on its location, it can be almost a deep burnt orange red or even lean toward kind of a brownish orange hue. Now, the highest quality carnelian is bright, vibrant orange. I mean, picture Crayola crayon orange, that perfect color orange, the same orange that you see in carrots and monarch butterflies. This is the most beautiful form of carnelian, in my opinion, that's available. And you see this often from Brazil, India, and Madagascar. I do find that sometimes the carnelian stones from Madagascar tend into that deeper, earthy kind of brownish red. But all of these are absolutely wonderful to use for healing, and you just need to find the color that really resonates with you. Now, similar to carnelian, you see sunstone coming from many different places and locations. So the highest quality sunstone comes from Tanzania, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a stunning orange color and has a beautiful schiller to it. Now the schiller refers to almost the little sparkly kind of sheen or surface that the sunstone has within it. Now sunstone is a variety of feldspar, and so what you're actually seeing are these layers that form within the feldspar, and different molecules get trapped between those layers and cause that kind of iridescent schiller. So the brilliant orange sunstone comes from Tanzania. You also see a nice bright orange sunstone, usually not as high of quality because it's not solid orange. It's often mottled with some white patches of quartz, and that comes from India. And then you have kind of the sunstone that tends to be peach and almost into the yellow hue that comes from Oregon in the United States. But if you have a piece that has that nice kind of iridescent quality to the surface, often that really high-grade stuff from Tanzania you see just in very small pieces because it's really a gem quality stone, whereas the larger tumbled stones that you see commercially available are typically the ones that are mottled with a little bit of that white. Sometimes it's kind of patchy looking, and those are often from India, but very, very beautiful stones still. Now another peachish orange stone that you see commonly available is peach quartz, sometimes also called peach aventurine. Now true aventurines have little flecks in them, little shiny flecks, and we'll talk more about this in an upcoming video when I discuss green stones, since green aventurine is the most common form of aventurine. But the peach aventurine that I've seen typically doesn't really have those flecks, and in fact it's really just a peach variety of quartz. And so this is kind of a deeper nectarine peach color. It's not a really vibrant orange, but it is commonly available, again, typically from India, and you see this on the market a lot in the form of pendulums and tumbled stones and things like that. Now there's also another stone I'd really like to talk about in this video called Apricot Botswana Agate. And it looks very similar to banded carnelian, except it has these beautiful eye-like patterns, this eye-like banding that's very typical of Botswana agate. Now, Botswana agate itself ranges in color from lavender to gray to pink to this brilliant orange or apricot color. And this is a very, very intense color, usually ranging from a bright peach to a very vibrant but deep orange. And this typically kind of varies from the center of the banding toward the outside. So rather than a banded carnelian or agate where you normally see more of a striped appearance, this Apricot Botswana agate, the bands really form in these tight-knit circles, and it's really beautiful because the stone is somewhat translucent, so you can kind of see through that a little bit. Now, regular carnelian is translucent as well, but with the Apricot Botswana agate, these little layered bands of agate actually create almost like a funnel effect where it seems like you can just look, you know, ad infinitum down the layers of this agate, and it's really, really interesting. Now, I would suggest looking at some photos of both banded carnelian and Botswana agate to get a feel for how these subtle differences in the bands really take place. Again, look at those more flowy, more regular bands in banded carnelian versus the really tight circular layers that you find in Apricot Botswana agate. One of the other common orange stones that you'll see is orange calcite. Now, of course, calcite comes in a huge color range, but orange calcite can really vary. Now, most calcite is considered orange calcite if it's a really vibrant, kind of lightish orange color, sometimes with some white banding or swirls through it, and it looks very much the color of orange segments, just like the inside of a fruit. But you can have orange calcite that really ranges in color. So the deeper orange calcite is sometimes called tangerine calcite, and that's really a much deeper reddish orange color, and it often is characterized by a very kind of chunky appearance. So calcite in and of itself is a little bit waxy, so if you're trying to identify your tumbled stones, they do feel just a little bit waxy on the surface, not sticky as if they're dirty, but they just have a softer feel to them, then that's a good indication that you may have a calcite crystal. They are somewhat translucent, especially the lighter orange calcite. The darker stuff that leans more toward the tangerine variety is typically not quite as translucent. It really can range from translucent to opaque. And it does have this appearance that usually isn't quite as massive or solid as the orange calcite. It's usually a little bit more broken up, so you'll often see little cracks and fissures on the surface of the stone. So those are some of the most common orange stones and kind of how to tell them apart a bit. I hope that that's really helpful for you. In our next video, we're going to be talking about yellow, brown, and gold crystals, so I hope to see you then. Until next time, I'm Ashley Levy of the Love and Light School of Crystal Therapy. Crystal blessings.